Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are tackling a monster, a true legend.
We really are.
We're opening the pages of, well, maybe the most influential self-help book in history, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
It's the foundational text for almost everything that came after it. I mean, published in 1937, it sold over 100 million copies.
Wow.
It's the book that launched, 1,000 other books.
And I think for a lot of people, the title alone, Think and Grow Rich, can feel a little, I don't know, a bit infomercial.
Oh, for sure.
Like, just sit on your couch, think really hard, and a bag of money is going to fall from the ceiling. It sort of feels like a scam.
It definitely has that vibe if you just look at the cover. But, our mission today is to look past that get-rich-quick title and really unpack the specific psychological principles Hill laid out.
Because it's not magic, is it? When you actually dig in.
No, not at all. It's not magic.
No, and that's what surprised me the most. It's actually, well, pretty rigorous. But before we get to the how, we should probably set the context here. Hill didn't just wake up one day and, write this based on his own vibes. This was a massive research project.
It was. He's been over 20 years studying 500 of the most successful people of his era. We're talking Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison.
Which is just an insane roster. I mean, can you imagine having access to those brains for 2 decades?
Exactly. And his whole goal was just to find the pattern. He wanted to know, what is the common denominator? Is it luck? Is it, family money? Is it just education?
And what he found was something else entirely.
Right. The core thesis he arrived at, and this is really the anchor for a whole deep dive today, is that success doesn't begin with any of those external things. It all begins with your thoughts.
The famous quote from the book is, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve."
That's the one. And to the modern ear, that might sound like a bumper sticker, but Hill is arguing something very, very specific here.
He's saying thoughts are things.
Yes, that thoughts are actual things. They're powerful forces that when you mix them with purpose and emotion, they actually translate into physical reality.
Okay, so let's unpack that. If the starting point is thought, does that mean every random idea I have is going to make me rich? Because I have a lot of those.
And that's where Hill makes this crucial distinction. This brings us to his very first principle, desire. But he's really careful to separate a wish from a burning desire.
Okay, lay it out for me. What's the difference between me wishing for a Ferrari and having a burning desire for one?
A wish is casual. I'd like to be rich. I'd like to have that job. It's passive. A burning desire for Hill is an obsession.
An obsession.
Yeah, it's a definite knowledge that you are going to get what you want. It's not a hope. It's a decision.
The book uses this great story to make the point, right? The one about Edwin Barnes. I love this anecdote because it's just so scrappy.
It is the perfect example. So Edwin Barnes has this burning desire to work with Thomas Edison.
Right. Not for him, with him. That's a key distinction.
A huge distinction. He wanted to be a partner.
But the reality was, Barnes had absolutely nothing going for him. No money, no connections. He didn't even live near Edison. He was a nobody.
A total nobody.
Right.
He literally had to hop a freight train, a cattle car to get to Orange, New Jersey.
Wow.
And when he finally gets an audience with Edison, he looked, in Hill's words, like a tramp. Disheveled, broke, zero credentials. Imagine showing up to Google today looking like you just rolled out of a ditch and demanding to be a partner.
If Edison hired him.
He did. Edison said later that he saw something in Barnes's face, an expression that just screamed he was determined to get what he came for.
So he starts him off doing what, sweeping floors?
Basically. Menial work. But here's the key. Barnes didn't see himself as a floor sweeper. In his mind, he was already Edison's partner. He held on to that desire for years until an opportunity finally popped up.
The dictating machine.
The dictating machine that no one else wanted to sell. Barnes crushed it, and eventually he did become Edison's partner.
It's that idea that his external reality, sweeping floors, looking like a tramp, it didn't matter because his internal reality was so fixed.
Precisely. And that leads right into the second part of this starting point.
Yeah.
Which is the idea of burning the ships.
This is referencing Hernan Cortez, right? The conquistador.
Yes. The story goes that when Cortez landed in Mexico, his soldiers were vastly outnumbered. He knew if they had an escape route, they'd retreat at the first sign of trouble.
So he
gave the order to burn their own ships. They watched their only way home just turn to ash.
That is some terrified motivation right there.
It's extreme, But the lesson Hill pulls from it is you have to cut off all sources of retreat. There is no plan B.
So when your back's against the wall, that's when the burning desire really kicks in.
That's it. So step one is this obsession, this all-in mentality. But, obsession by itself isn't enough, right? You can be obsessed and just spin your wheels. You need a way to lock it in.
You need a mechanism.
Correct. You have to program that obsession into your mind so deeply that it actually changes your behavior. And this is where we get into faith and autosuggestion.
Okay, so when Hill talks about faith, I think a lot of people might tune out. They think he's, preaching, but he's using the word a little differently, isn't he?
He is. It's not strictly religious faith. He defines faith as a state of mind. It's a deep, unshakable self-belief. It's the ability to see the result as already existing.
I like the GPS metaphor for this. It really helps me visualize it.
It's a great analogy. Think of your brain like a GPS. You might be in your driveway. You're nowhere near your destination.
Right.
But you program the coordinates. You have faith in the destination.
Yeah.
You don't need to see the house you're driving to. You just know the coordinates are locked in. Your actions, the car will follow the route. Hill says most people never even program the coordinates.
They're just driving around hoping they stumble on something good.
Exactly. Aimlessly.
Okay, I want to double click on this autosuggestion thing because this is where I think most people fall off the wagon. It sounds a little bit, woo, right?
It does.
Standing in front of a mirror chanting, "I am rich." It feels like you're trying to trick yourself.
It feels that way because, in a sense, you are tricking yourself. But Hill argues that's exactly how our biological hardware is designed. Think of your subconscious mind like a garden. It's incredibly fertile, but it's totally indiscriminate. It will grow whatever seeds you plant in it.
So it doesn't filter for good or bad.
Zero filter. If you plant corn, you get corn. If you plant nightshade poison, you get poison. The subconscious doesn't care. It just produces. Hill's point is that, 99% of people are letting the world plant the seeds for them.
Right, from negative news or skeptical friends.
Exactly. And they accidentally plant a garden of fear. Autosuggestion is just the act of taking over the garden yourself.
So how do we actually plant the corn? You mentioned a protocol. Is it just thinking positive?
No, and Hill is militant about this. It is not vague optimism. He lays out 6 very specific steps in the book. If you miss one, the seed won't take root.
Okay, walk us through them, because if we're going to do this, we should do it right.
Step 1, fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. Not, I want plenty of money. The subconscious needs a specific target.
Precision matters. Okay.
Step 2, determine exactly what you intend to give in return. There's no such thing as something for nothing. Are you giving your time, your labor, a specific service?
That's the part people skip. They want the check without the invoice.
100%. Step 3, establish a definite date. Step 4, create a definite plan for carrying it out and begin at once, whether you are ready or not.
Whether you are ready or not. I love that. Action over perfection.
Step 5, write it all out. A clear, concise statement. And finally, step 6, read that written statement aloud twice a day. Once just before sleeping, and once right when you wake up.
And this brings us back to that robotic feeling I mentioned. I mean, if I'm just reading a script, is that enough?
It is useless without the catalyst. And this is the technical key to the whole book. Emotion.
Ah.
The subconscious cannot be penetrated by plain words. It only responds to words that are emotionalized. You have to actually summon the feeling of already having the money while you read.
That's the hard part. Feeling rich when you're broke.
It is. But Hill says that is the price of entry. Your brain actually cannot tell the difference between a real physical experience and one that is deeply emotionally imagined.
So that's what visualization is.
That's what it is. By mixing thought with emotion, you're literally tricking your brain into believing you're already successful. And once your brain believes it, it starts to spot opportunities that align with that belief.
So you're priming the pump. You're setting the filter for your reality.
You're programming the GPS.
All right, so we've got the desire. We're programming the mind. Now let's talk about the tools we need. This is where Hill drops a bit of a bombshell about education. He says general knowledge is, well, essentially useless for getting wealthy.
It is a pretty surprising point, especially for the 1930s.
I have to pause on this. General knowledge is useless. We spend the first 20 years of our lives in a system built entirely around general knowledge. Is he saying that's all a waste of time?
Well, it's controversial, for sure. But he isn't saying education is bad. He's just saying it's not profitable. He defines education differently. The word comes from the Latin educo, which means to draw out.
So it's not about stuffing facts in.
It's about developing your mind so you can get what you want without violating the rights of others. A walking encyclopedia isn't necessarily educated, in Hill's view, if they can't monetize it.
He calls for specialized knowledge instead.
Yes, specialized knowledge. The deep expertise needed to provide a service or solve a problem. But here's the twist. You don't have to have that knowledge in your own head.
This is the Henry Ford example, which is just fascinating.
It's a classic story. During World War I, a Chicago newspaper called Henry Ford an ignorant pacifist.
So Ford sent them.
He sued them for libel. And during the trial, the newspaper's lawyers tried to prove he was ignorant by grilling him with general knowledge, questions, history, civics, that kind of thing.
Trying to make him look dumb on the stand. Who is Benedict Arnold type stuff.
Exactly.
Oh.
And finally, Ford gets fed up. He points a finger at the lawyer and says, "Why should I clutter my mind with general knowledge when I have a row of electric push buttons on my desk?" He says, "If I need to answer a question, I press a button and summon an expert who can answer it for me."
That is such a power move. He's basically saying, I don't need to know the answer. I just need to know the person who knows the answer.
And that is the perfect bridge to the mastermind principle. Because if you accept you don't need to know everything yourself, you suddenly realize you need a network of brains.
Okay, let's define the mastermind. It's a term that gets thrown around a lot today, usually just meaning a networking group. But Hill meant something more specific.
Much more specific. He defined it as the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony. That harmony part is the secret sauce. It's not just smart people arguing in a room.
He gets almost metaphysical with it. He talks about a third mind.
He does. He claims that when two minds come together in perfect alignment, they create a third invisible, intangible force that's like a third mind.
Okay, that sounds pretty mystical. Is there a practical way to look at that?
Thinking about batteries. A single battery has limited power. If you link a dozen batteries together, the energy transforms. You can run things a single battery could never touch.
So it's about synergy.
It's synergy. Hill said Andrew Carnegie attributed his entire fortune to his mastermind group. Carnegie knew almost nothing about making steel, but he knew how to manage the men who did. And it had to be in harmony.
Harmony seems to be the key. No politics, no infighting.
Total alignment.
Okay, so we've got the team, we've got the knowledge. Now we actually have to do the work, the grind. And Hill noticed a really specific pattern in how successful people make decisions.
This is one of my favorite takeaways because it's so actionable. He found that successful people make decisions quickly and change them slowly.
And unsuccessful people do the opposite.
Exactly. They make decisions very slowly, usually because of fear, and then they change their minds quickly and frequently.
That makes so much sense. If you decide slowly, you let doubt creep in. And if you change your mind all the time, you never build any momentum.
It's all about commitment. Once the decision is made, you stick to it, which leads us, inevitably to persistence. The sustain. Hill says persistence is to your character what carbon is to steel. It's the hardener. And he uses the story of R.U. Darby to illustrate what happens when you quit.
This is the 3 feet from gold story. This one hits hard.
It really does. So Darby's uncle goes west during the gold rush. He stakes a claim, starts digging, and finds a vein of gold.
The jackpot.
He covers it up, goes home, raises money for machinery, comes back to mine it properly. The first carload of ore is a huge success, but then the vein just disappeared.
Gone.
Vanished. They kept drilling, desperately trying to find it again. And finally they quit. They sold the machinery to a junk man for a few $100s and went home.
But the junk man was smart.
Well, he was smart enough to know he wasn't an expert. He called in a mining engineer. The engineer calculated that the vein hadn't disappeared. It had just shifted because of a fault line. And he said the gold would be found just 3 feet from where the Darbys had stopped drilling.
3 feet.
3 feet. The junk man made millions.
Oh, that is just heartbreaking. But I guess the lesson is that failure can be a trickster.
That's exactly how Hill frames it. He says failure loves to trip you up right when success is within reach. He sees failure not as a stop sign, but as feedback.
And persistence is how you push through it.
Persistence is the sustained effort you need to induce that faith we talked about earlier. You have to push through that silent period where nothing seems to be happening.
Now, before we wrap up, we have to wade into the deep end here. Chapter 10, The Mystery of Sex Transmutation. This is usually the part of the book where people either scratch their heads or just skip it entirely.
Or they close the book. It sounds so bizarre to the modern ear.
But if we strip away the 1930s phrasing, he's really just talking about physics, isn't he? About energy conservation.
Precisely. Hill argues that the sexual drive is the most powerful biological stimulus a human has. It drives action, courage, imagination. It is high-octane fuel. The problem, he says, is that most people just burn that fuel off in purely physical release.
You waste the steam.
Right. Think of a steam engine. If you leave the valve open, the steam escapes and the train sits still. But if you close the valve, the pressure builds. That pressure is what drives the pistons. Transmutation is just closing the valve and redirecting that pressure into your business, your art, your creativity.
So he's saying the most successful people are the ones with the highest drive, but also the highest discipline to channel it.
Yes. He actually notes that he rarely found a person capable of great achievement before the age of 40, just because they hadn't yet learned to master and redirect that energy.
That explains a lot about the late bloomer phenomenon. He also mentions the sixth sense here.
The Temple of Wisdom. Hill suggests that once you've mastered all the other principles, you develop a kind of heightened intuition. You get flashes of ideas. You can sense dangers before they happen. It's basically your subconscious working so efficiently it feels like a superpower.
But standing in the way of all of this, the drive, the energy, the mastermind, are the brakes, the villains of the story, the 6 ghosts of fear.
These are the things that haunt us. Hill identifies 6 basic fears that paralyze us. The fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death.
And which one did he think was the most damaging?
Poverty and criticism. He says the fear of criticism robs a person of their initiative. It destroys their imagination and limits their individuality.
That feels incredibly relevant to the social media age. I mean, we are constantly exposed to the potential for mass criticism. We live in a comment section.
We do. And the symptom of that fear is a lack of ambition. We stay in the safe lane because the safe lane doesn't get criticized. Hill's solution is just brutal honesty with yourself. You have to identify which ghost is haunting you and realize it only exists in your mind.
And what's the antidote? How do we banish the ghost?
Action. Fear thrives in hesitation. It thrives when you sit around worrying. But the moment you take definite, organized action, fear loses its grip. Motion cures fear.
So let's pull all this together. We've covered a massive amount of ground.
We have.
It starts with a burning desire, not a wish, but a decision to burn the ships. We lock that in with faith and autosuggestion, using that 6-step protocol to literally reprogram our own brain.
Right, our brain's garden.
We support that with specialized knowledge and a mastermind group, and we sustain it all with persistence, deciding quickly and refusing to quit, even when it feels like the gold is gone.
That is the roadmap.
So why does this still matter? I mean, this was written in 1937. The world is a very different place.
The technology has changed, but the human hardware hasn't. Whether you want to call it the law of attraction or look at it through the lens of modern neuroscience, the principle holds up. Your dominant thoughts create your reality.
If you focus on poverty and failure, you'll find them.
And if you program your mind for opportunity and success, you will find them. Hill basically provided the user manual for the human mindset.
It puts the responsibility squarely back on us.
It does. It says, you are the master of your fate because you are the master of your thoughts.
I want to leave everyone with a thought based on that mining story.
It's the question I always ask myself when things get hard.
Where in your life are you currently digging? And are you tempted to quit right now? Because you have no idea if you are miles away or if you are literally 3 feet from that breakthrough.
And the only way to find out is to keep digging.
That's powerful. And hey, if you don't have a mastermind group yet, maybe it's time to start one. Find those people who are going in the same direction as you.
Alignment is everything.
Thanks for diving in with us today. We'll see you on the next one.